Hey, hi everyone, welcome back. This is lesson 2 out of 5, potentially, on the very basics of RStudio. So if you haven't seen it yet, my first video on this shows you how to download the language in RStudio, and also how to launch it and perform some very basic functions on a built-in dataset, which is the same example that I'm going to use moving forward on the very basics series. So if you haven't seen it, check that out. In that video we covered how to bring the data set, which is built in R, and also have a look at the data, look at the head and the tail functions and what those functions actually do for us. So I'm going to pick up from here, from line 10, again building on the first lesson of that data set. So as a quick reminder, what I did here was to bring the dataset empty cars into the console and through my code. You can see here empty cars, and I'm going to continue on with that so we can learn a little bit more. So let's see what else we can do. Now, before we do this, what I'm going to do here, this is all the output from the previous lesson, which is okay to have, but I want to show you something quick here. If you click on the line here in the console, and if you hit Control L, you can clear the console. Now that does not impact your code at all. Your code is your code. I kind of like to keep everything kind of neat and clean and organized, so I use that quite a bit, which is the same as clicking on this little broom here. It says clear console. See, Control L. So as I start new analysis, or I'm looking into data, as the console builds up a lot, I go back in Control L. I just kind of clear the screen there so I can actually see what's currently being done. So that's what I just did. You can use this little broom to clear it, which is the same idea for the plots that you see here on the plots. We don't have a plot right now, but the designated specific place for the plots, and also to clear your variables, your objects and data sets. So let's see where we left off, and let's continue on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this function here called str, which is for structure. I wanted to see the structure of this data set. So I'm going to simply type str, open brackets, empty cars, which is the name of the data set, and I'm going to run that line. Remember from the first lesson on this series, I mentioned that when you actually run the code by clicking on this button, or you hit Control Enter on the keyboard, you are actually running that line, the line that you are in, which is in this case here, it's line 11. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Run, and then in the console, as we saw previously with the other stuff, I can see the output of that function. So it's showing me that this is my data frame. I have in here 32 observations and 11 variables. Now, RStudio calls observations the number of rows and variables the number of columns. So if you recall from the first one, I'm just going to quickly run that head again. This one here. We have here rows, the car models. Now in this case I only see the first 10, but I have more. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in R, what it refers to variables, it's actually your columns, which makes sense because each column has a variable. And then the observations in this case are the rows, which also makes sense because each individual row here, which is a car model, has a set of variables. So just as a caveat, that observation is actually referring to the number of rows that you have in this data set, and the variables in this case, it's referring to the number of columns There are variables though, because in each column, as I said, you have a variable. But a quick look here kinds of give you an idea of your data frame. And then you have your variables, miles per gallon, cylinders, displacement, horsepower, etc. It is numeric, all of them. And you can see the first numbers listed here. So it doesn't show you them all. And if you cross-reference with this information down here, you can see 21, 21, 22.8. So those are the numbers for each column. It is just showing you here, this is not the data frame necessarily, but it's showing you that in that variable, those are the numbers that are in there. Now, I just mentioned that there are 32 observations or 32 rows. It's not showing the 32. That's why you have the ... here, like kind of the etc. More to come type of thing. And then the same thing for the other variables. So this is a quick function just to have a look at the type of data frame that you have. It's similar to what we do in Jupyter Notebook with the info. It's somehow similar. Okay, so I'm going to clear this again, and I'm going to go back to just running that one line. So we have that only one piece there. Okay, the next thing that we can do is we can verify the column and row names. So what are the headings, or what are the names of the columns and the rows? This is a very easy function as well, easy to remember. COL from column, COL names, open brackets, empty cars. This is the name of my data set, right? That's the name of the data set that I pulled from the RStudio built-in dataset. So I'm going to go ahead and execute that line there. I'm going to hit Control Enter on the keyboard, and I can see here call names, which is my command, my code, call names empty cars, and it's showing me the names of the columns: MPG, CYL, displacement, disp, HP, etc. Now, often you see in RStudio this number 1 here, or number 2, or maybe you see 1, 5, and 12. This is not from the data frame. This is just RStudio labeling, numbering the sequence of events. So in this case, we only have this one row because it has everything I need to know about the column names. I don't have anything else. It's just showing in line 1. As we go through some other examples here, you'll see that those numbers were changed. But the important thing to know right now is that this is not from the data frame itself. It's just RStudio letting you know that this is your first, your first set of names for your columns. And because that's all I have, it ends there. If I do the same for row names, again, I am in line 15. If I run the code, it's going to run only line 15. Now I can see the row names. Now, that's what I said. Like, this is interesting because remember from the data set, I had all my models on the left, but now I'm saying, return to me the names of the rows, right? From this data set. And in here is what I just said a minute ago. It's listing all of those names. It's listing, this is the first model, this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth. By the way, this is starting on the fifth one. This is number 5, 6, 7, 8. As you can tell by now, it's only fitting 4 names in each row here. And then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, so on and so forth. It's just a way of indicating to you where that record is, that observation is in the data set. So Pontiac Firebird, for example, it's position 25 or row 25, observation 25. If I had this data set all listed, I would know that in observation 25, I have my Pontiac Firebird. It doesn't show the 26, the 27, the 28 here, but it's pretty much very easy to figure that out, right? So that's another couple things you can do. And again, we're just trying to explore the data set, what is in the data set. So we haven't really performed any statistical analysis, anything like that so far. That's coming up in the next lesson, which is going to be 3 out of 5 of the very basics in RStudio. I'll see you next time.